I define success by having a balance. Working really hard is success, but also at the same time, spending time with family, going to the gym, working out, dealing with your mind, your body, your health, and making sure that your finances are always being taken care of and having enough money for the future so you can build wealth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tau, and I always want to thank my sponsors, three of them, Dental Intelligence, CallRail, and Net32 for their continued support, allowing me to come to your inbox every single Friday at 5 a.m. with a new episode. We are entering season 8. It's hard to believe that 8 years ago I started this podcast. There are so many episodes out there that you may want to listen to, so check out all the podcast networks for those old episodes because there's a lot of great information in there. I also want to remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 25th through 27th. Okay, it's 3 days this year at Pier 66 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We have a brand new website we just launched last week. Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's fully updated. You can check out who the speakers are. We've got some great many of them. Many of them will be on the podcast in the near future to talk about what they're talking about. So stay tuned. You can check it out at superchargeyourdentalpractice.com. If you use the code RAVING, R-A-V-I-N-G, to save $100 on your registration. Today's episode is called The Top Tax Mistakes Dentists Make That Are Costing Them Millions. My guest is Rachel Michaelov from Practice Wealth Partners. So Rachel is the founder and CEO of Practice Wealth Partners. She has 20 plus years of experience in tax planning and has a team of tax accountants. She is licensed by the IRS in all 50 U.S. states, and her mission is to educate and help dentists reduce their tax liability to zero legally so they can turn the extra funds to wealth-building opportunities. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Rachel Michaelov. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be on here.
Well, I look forward to spending the next 30 minutes or so talking about this. This is a very popular topic. With dentists, any way they can save money or make more money, they're always interested in it. So I always like to start off talking about or having you talk about how you help dental practices. So can you just share a couple minutes on what you do for dental practices?
Sure. So we help dental practices with monthly books. We process payroll for them. We do their taxes. And then at the same time, we help them with tax planning. So we work with so many dentists that, they came to us in the past and they did not have proper tax planning. So they overpaid, millions of dollars in taxes, and they have different people doing their books, their payroll, their taxes. So helping them, really save money on taxes is what we love to do.
So how do you engage a client? Are they being referred to you? Are you speaking out there? How does a dentist know, or how does a dentist understand that they need your services? Because they have accountants, they have people who do the stuff for them. So how does someone know they need your services?
I would say social media. We have email marketing. I mean, I'm a pretty big marketer. I go crazy doing videos and things like that. So I have about 6 to 8 dentists a day that I speak to. And in the month of December, I think I spoke to over 150 dentists that really needed help. So it's all about marketing and social media where people follow us. And we're getting a lot of referrals now, and people are referring us a lot of business.
Got it. But how does a dentist know they need assistance? That's really what I want to get at, because people are listening to this, and again, they have an accountant. How does somebody understand the difference between what you do and what an accountant or their CPA does for them? Let's put it that way.
Right. When they have an unexpected tax bill, so when they're working with a CPA and their CPA tells them you have $100,000 that you owe or $200,000 that you owe. And I posted on social media where I say, if you have a dental CPA and they're telling you that you owe more than $50K in taxes, then it's time for you to find another accountant, because they're not giving you proactive strategy to reduce your liability. That's when a dentist really knows that they don't have the proper guidance, is when you have a large tax bill to the IRS and your CPA hasn't met with you and gave you strategies to reduce your liability.
Got it. So the title of the podcast is obviously the top mistakes dentists are making that are costing them millions of dollars. So I love that title. I think it's important that they understand what's going on in this space. So can you start off by naming a couple of the biggest mistakes that they are, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into those.
Sure. So the first mistake that I see dentists making on a consistent basis is a lot of them, they have bookkeepers that just do bookkeeping, and then they work with payroll system, and I call them a payroll robot, where they have a ADP or Paychex processing payroll for them, and then they have a year-end accountant only preparing returns, not giving them any guidance on tax strategy. And when I ask them, did you make any estimated tax payments? They go, yeah, I made 4 quarters estimated tax payments of the exact numbers that they had from the prior year, because you're supposed to be making at least 110% of last year's numbers. So I go, if your CPA is doing your tax returns and they're reviewing your books, they should be giving you actual estimates based on your actual numbers and meeting with you in April and June before those estimates are due and giving you strategies to reduce your liability. Is that happening? And they go, no. So that is like one biggest mistake, is when you don't have everything under one roof. Because when everything is disconnected, you have way too many people in your financial pie, and nobody could really give you specific and customized advice to you, the dentist. Your bookkeeper is only focused on the books, and they're just doing your numbers. Your payroll person is calculating your reasonable comp based on what they think it should be, but are they looking at your actual numbers and giving you advice on what your payroll should be? And I've seen this every day. I've seen a dentist pay themselves $500,000 and a dentist pay themselves $80,000, which is way too low. But payroll, they're acting like robots. They don't understand that if you're an S Corp, you are required to pay yourself a reasonable compensation. So they're just processing payroll and they're not giving any guidance. And then the CPA at the end of the year, when you meet them in February, they're just preparing your returns. They're like, oh, shoot, you didn't pay yourself a reasonable comp. What happened? Your books are wrong. There's no guidance. And then, some of them don't even make any estimated payments. Now they have a large tax bill with penalties and interest. And the dentist goes, I did everything right. I thought I did everything right. I had a bookkeeper. I had a payroll, service. I had an accountant. But nobody was giving them strategy. Nobody was saying, let's meet. What do you need to do to reduce your liability? Do you need to buy equipment to 5x your investment to wipe out your liability? No one, and the dentists that I've spoken to are so angry at their dental CPAs because they have a $500,000 liability, $800,000, and even $1 million, even if they have a CPA that's preparing their returns and someone doing their books that's so robotic.
So you mentioned something. So obviously every dentist is going to have a payroll company. They're going to have a bookkeeper potentially. They're going to have an accountant on their team who they pay. So just so people understand, what is the difference between yourself and an accountant? And I know you have a different title than a CPA. You have a different designation. So can you explain that? Because I know you're licensed by the government. So can you talk about that as well?
So I'm licensed by the IRS. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm licensed, in 50 states. Yeah. And the license is given by the IRS, and we're licensed in 50 states versus a CPA is licensed in 1 state. And that is what they mainly focus on. Also, enrolled agents specialize in taxation. CPAs don't. Our exam is specifically for taxes, and if there's anything that we need to do, like call the IRS or handle any IRS issues, we're able to do that. CPAs are able to do that too, but again, they're just licensed in 1 state, just like attorneys. There's 3 designations that could prepare returns and help you with your accounting. They're enrolled agents, CPAs, and attorneys. And enrolled agents are the only ones that are licensed in 50 states.
Got it. Okay. And then do you work in conjunction with an accountant? Do you handle things outside of what the accountant normally does? So again, someone who has an accountant and are concerned about the tax liabilities they have, you work with the accountant, do you work separately? That's the other question I was getting at.
So we do that internally. So I have CPAs working for me and I have enrolled agents working for me. I have a very big team. Not so big, about 10 people in my accounting department. So we do the monthly books and then we review it. I have a bookkeeper that just does all the books for all of our dental clients. And then we have a payroll specialist in office that processes payroll by reviewing the books. And then we have a CPA preparing the returns, and then we have a tax team that in April until December, we're so busy finding and vetting specific tax strategies to reduce the client's liability. So we do everything in-house, and you don't even need an accountant. We're the accountants. We're doing everything for them, and you don't need anyone else.
So you would basically be taking over the accounting for the office. That's what I was getting at. That's exactly what I wanted to make sure. Got it. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about some other additional mistakes dentists are making. You talked about one there. So can you add a couple other ones there as well?
Of course. So the second thing is that most dentists, they don't think that they need strategy, or they think that the only strategy is a retirement plan. Yes, that is a great retirement plan, but that is so basic. There are so many other strategies and they don't know. I spoke to a dentist yesterday. She's in her 50s and she had a CPA for 20 years and that's all she did, put money into retirement, and now she's looking to retire and she's looking at a $250,000 tax bill, and her CPA never guided her on what to do to reduce her liability. So the other mistake is not meeting with your CPAs on a consistent basis every single quarter. And they are supposed to provide specific strategies to reduce your liability. There's a strategy, I'm not gonna mention it because I don't really recommend it, but there's let's say strategy 1, hey, we recommend this. This is how we could help you reduce your liability. And if I don't believe in it, I'm not gonna recommend it. I only believe in strategies that I recommend. Then there's strategy 2. This could wipe out your liability. We had a dentist last month. We were able to help him reduce his liability by $800,000. He's in his 70s. He's a dental surgeon. And he said that he never had a CPA help him in all these years, which is crazy. So you're making all of this money. You're giving your biggest expense away, which is, I think, retirement, because you could have really saved that. And if you did, you could build wealth. But it's all about proper planning and planning in the year. You do not meet your CPAs in February. You're already too late. You need to meet your CPAs in April, going over your year-to-date financials. Then again in July, looking where you are at. And especially the most important time is October and November, because then you really know your year-to-date liability. You look at your reasonable comp and say, do I need to increase it? Do we need to stop paying myself? Do I need to hire my kids? Do I need to hire my spouse? What else should I be doing before the year ends? And then what is my liability? And what things do I need to purchase in order for me to wipe out my liability? So many dentists come to me and they go crazy trying to buy equipment for $100,000, $200,000. And I say, no, when you're buying equipment, especially dental equipment, you're only getting a percentage of tax savings. So let's say you buy something for $100,000, 20 to 30% is what you're getting, $20 to $30,000 of savings. But there are things that you can purchase that gives you 5x your investment. So you're putting $100K, you're getting a $500,000 deduction. So people go crazy buying cars, buying equipment, buying things that they do not need, and then they honestly retire with no money. And you're just throwing money away because you're not intentional and you don't have the proper planning.
That's really interesting. You always hear at the end, what equipment should I buy because I have this huge tax bill. That's not the way to be doing things. That's kind of the way we were taught. I don't want to be ignorant, but I didn't pay much attention to. My accountant said, you pay this. I paid it. I didn't even worry about it because I was making money.
Right.
I was also putting money away. But again, I don't think being ignorant is smart. But I know a lot of dentists who really don't pay attention to that because we're so focused on running the practice. When I was worried about the end result of things.
Right. I agree. So that's why I call it like you have to be really intentional about who you are hiring. Hiring the right accountant is going to help you retire poor or retire rich. I promise you, I've seen people that are ready to sell their practice with no money in their bank account. And I believe it's because of poor accountants or I don't know, just not the right accountants working with them. If you have accountants working with you from the very beginning and the entity is the proper entity. For example, there's so many dentists that come to me, I can't even believe it, they're sole proprietors. How are you a sole proprietor? You have such a high risk. I mean, that is the worst entity. Being a sole proprietor or even a single member LLC, where you're reporting all your income and expenses on a Schedule C, on your individual return, that is not the best entity. You want to make sure that you are a proper entity. I would recommend being an S Corp. If you're not an S Corp, then you probably have bad accountants. And when somebody comes to me and they're not an S Corp, I would question who are they working with? And do they have the proper advisors advising them? Because just by that, you're overpaying 15% in taxes every single year. And you have a much higher risk of getting audited when you report all your income and expenses on a Schedule C.
So just so people understand, and you mentioned what type of organization you're set up as. You have a sole proprietor, which is rare in dentistry, but you also have an S Corp, you have a C Corp, and you have an LLC. Those are really the options that you have, correct?
Correct. And then there's a multi-member LLC where you have a partnership, more than one partner. So it's really, yeah.
Right. So you're saying the S Corp is the way to go?
Yes.
In general?
Yes.
Okay.
But then you need to make sure that you're on payroll. So if you're an S Corp and then you do not pay yourself a reasonable compensation, your risks go up. The audit risks go up. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything right, which is why I'm saying working with your accountant at least every month or every quarter is so important. Because if you don't pay yourself the first 3 months and you forget, it's easy to get back on track. But after a year, now you're catching up. Now your books are behind. Now your estimates are behind. Now it's hard. I had a dentist who has a $650,000 liability. Okay, my heart went out to him. He was crying to me on the phone saying, Rachel, I don't want to do this anymore. He's a young dentist and he lost all his money to Bitcoin during COVID, I think. And now he has a $650K liability and has no money to pay the IRS. And he also has a federal tax lien that started in I think in August. He just came to me in December and he had an accountant all the time. And I said, how did you not have proper guidance? It's really sad that, you're working so hard in your business, but you're forgetting the financial aspect of your business. And if you have leaks in the business, then everything you're building could just goes away. And it's such an important topic, and I'm so passionate about it.
Well, it sounds like that, so that's good.
Thank you.
One of the things I hear about a lot is retirement funds, and there's so many different things. There's 401k, there's IRAs, there's Roths, so can you just touch base briefly on because again, people say how much money should I be putting away each year? So can you talk about some of those retirement accounts that are available and what you recommend? And I know every case is different, so obviously they need to meet with their tax professional to decide what's the best way to do it. But can you talk about the various types of ways you can put money away for retirement and use it as a tax savings now?
Of course. So there's so many things. There's a defined benefit plan. There's 401ks. There's a SEP that you could do. But, my personal best recommendation, I love real estate. I love buying property. I always have a lot of dentists that come to me and they buy the building that they are at. And then the other biggest tax strategies, I don't know if you ever heard of cost segregation. No, it's oh my God. It's like one of the biggest tax strategies that every single dentist should really look into. And cost seg allows you to wipe out your liability where you pay, it's like a maximum depreciation. It's awesome. And that's what I would recommend. You could max out your IRA, but I honestly think that's so basic. There's other things that you could invest in. And also the other strategy I highly recommend is R&D. I don't know if you've heard of that, research and development.
The tax credits for research and development.
Yes, it's huge. I work with he used to be a dentist, practice owner, and now he's an attorney working specifically for dentists, helping them with this R&D credit. And do you know how many dentists I talk to that work with dental CPAs and they haven't done the R&D credit, which is so basic? That's easy money. A lot of them. How do you have a dental CPA that hasn't mentioned the most basic strategies, which is cost segregation? That's huge. And then R&D and giving you specific strategies on wiping out your liability. I never believed it until I've seen it for my clients. We wiped out a liability of $1.4 million last year for a dentist. And then like I mentioned, the dental surgeon of $800K and so many more. And people think like, oh my God, it's not possible. Yes, it is possible with proper strategy. And the number one thing that every dentist should really know is be best friends with your CPA. Be best friends with your accountants. Meet with them on a quarterly basis and tell them, bring me strategies to wipe out my liability. Can I meet with R&D the first quarter? Can I meet with the cost seg specialist the second quarter? Should I buy a building this year? Should I buy a property this year to build wealth? What do I need to do? How much money can I save in order for me to build wealth? And you could do that in the year, not worry about it in February because you have a $300,000 tax bill that you're just going to donate it to the IRS.
Interesting. These are things they definitely do not teach when you're in dental school. So I think a lot of people are listening to this and they're going, whoa, I definitely need to figure out why I may be paying too much in taxes. I was always under the thought process, and I've been retired for 3 years, so not that long, but I was always under the premise that, hey, you make money, you pay taxes. That's the way it was. Obviously, that's not the case because you can reduce your tax liability and obviously keep more money for yourself.
Exactly. Pension. Yep.
So, obviously, you have people who are accountants doing all the books for the practices. You've got you who potentially can take that over and really focus on the tax savings that someone could have. Can you talk about how a dentist would approach their CPA and say, dude, I think I'm paying too much tax? That's not the easiest conversation to have, especially if you're very friendly with. You said make good friends with your CPA, especially if they're not doing the best job.
I had a client in December who had a $850K tax bill, and he goes, Rachel, I'm very good friends with my CPA. This is going to be really hard. He's like, he just had a baby. I gave him a gift, and I don't know how am I going to break it to him. He's like, but you know what? Honestly, I'm not married to him. I said, you shouldn't be married to anybody, okay? You shouldn't be married to no CPA, especially if they're giving you a tax bill that they're not helping you reduce. So I would say, listen, I spoke to a tax strategist, like they would speak to me. We would do an assessment, and that's the first thing that we do because we don't bring on clients if we can't help them. I want to make sure that I assess your situation and I'm able to help you for sure. Then we tell you, okay, you would need to, these are the specific top 2 or 3 strategies that we recommend because we see your liability and then we bring you specific strategies to wipe out your liability. And then what he did, and also we had another client in California that did this, he brought it to his CPA. And I said, listen, the reason that you're having a conversation with me is because your CPA is unknown, they're uninformed. The funny thing is that a lot of these CPAs, they say that these things are a scam. And they're going to say something is a scam because they're uninformed. And I would ask more questions. Why is this a scam? Have you done this? If you haven't done it, then you're not informed. Don't say something is a scam if you're not informed. Start Googling, start researching, ask questions. It is your responsibility for your family to do everything you can to reduce your liability. And if your CPA is not going to help you, at least bring suggestions and bring strategies, then it's time to fire them. Like, you don't need a CPA to do work that ChatGPT could do, right? Anybody could do calculating your income and expenses and categorizing it into the IRS code. There's no pride in that. Preparing returns, that could be fine. It's medium level, it's easy, but it takes a brain to wipe out your liability and meet with you on a quarterly basis and tell you, what do these numbers mean? Okay, you have a $500,000 liability. Let me help you reduce it. Go buy a building. Let's do cost seg. Let's help you with R&D. Let me connect you with, oil and gas. There's an oil and gas strategy. I'm sure you've heard of it. I don't 100% recommend it. It's usually not the most beneficial, but sometimes it makes sense. But there's so many things that you can present to a client. And if your dental CPA hasn't presented these strategies, then they're not doing anything to grow and do, continuing education to help the client. And do they really want to work with someone like that? I wouldn't. I'm a high achiever and I need to have somebody in the same mindset as me.
Have you heard of the manufacturing credit? So if you have a CEREC machine or a mill in your practice and you manufacture your own materials or your own crowns, there's also a manufacturing credit that you can take.
Is that an 8X?
I'm not even sure. I just know that a lot of the companies who sell these units to dentists say that it's an additional tax credit you can get is because you're doing the manufacturing of the materials in your actual office with the advent of these 3D printers. So I was curious about that. One other thing I wanted to ask you was you mentioned CPA saying it was a scam, okay? I remember talking to my CPA a while back about some strategy. I can't remember what it was, but he said any of those strategies can cause you to get audited. So
Right.
can you talk about, because I know that's a pretty common question you may get is, does it increase the risk of audits when I do something like this? So can you touch base on that?
That's funny. Of course, you could get audited. So you have a risk of getting audited anyway, whether you are going to be using these strategies or not. And everything is legal. So a lot of these strategies that we present to our clients, dentists or anyone, they're vetted by these big guys. And I have a CPA, I have a partner that's a CPA who just does these tax strategies and he does these assessments. And I did a webinar with him, by the way, for a lot of dentists, and a lot of dental clients are asking us for the recording. It's so informational. It's amazing. And there's like private letter rulings, there's attorneys that are backing these strategies up. There are videos to explain what these strategies are. There are CPA firms that are backing these strategies up. And the dentist that I mentioned that we helped him save $800K in taxes, he did his due diligence. I don't want anyone signing on to these strategies unless you do your due diligence and you asked your CPA, your attorney. We had a client that brought his CPA on the phone because there's nothing to be afraid of. Bring your CPA. They were embarrassed. Actually, he's a CPA and an attorney. He was embarrassed because he has never heard of these strategies. That's fine. We'll give you the memorandum. We'll give you all of the information so you could research it, do your due diligence, and in 2 weeks later, they get really angry at their CPA. They fire them, and then they move forward with these tax strategies. But a lot of these CPAs, you know what they say? I'm not a tax strategist. You hired me to do your books. You hired me to prepare your returns. And a lot of dentists and business owners, they think that, oh, I hired a CPA, I'm good, right? No, you're not good. You need to know who you're hiring. And everyone needs a tax strategist to reduce your liability, because that's our main focus. Looking at your liability, bringing you, solid strategies to reduce your liability. And I'm telling you, a lot of these dental CPA firms, they do not do that, which is, I can't believe, that's crazy to me. Because the whole point of hiring an accounting firm is for them to help you build wealth. But you can't build wealth if you're paying $300,000 to $400,000 every single year to the IRS. I have dentists randomly giving the IRS $100,000 a quarter because their CPAs told them to, based on prior numbers. But are they meeting with you and strategizing what you need to reduce your liability? That is the missing piece that every dentist needs. And if they're not having that, there's ChatGPT could do the rest. The returns, the bookkeeping, the payroll, that's robotic. Strategy is where everything is in 2026.
Got it. So I have one last question for you. And obviously there's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of misunderstandings. Can can you just throw out one thing that you think is a very common misconception or myth in the industry, and quickly debunk that? So I'm curious, just anything you can think of, like one of the biggest myths that you see in terms of, saving money and saving taxes in the dental industry.
I would think a lot of dentists, when I tell them that you could bring your liability down to zero, they think I'm crazy, and that's a big myth because they, like you said, I'm making money, I could pay taxes. No, if you plan strategically, you are able to wipe out your liability. And the other myth is, like, people think R&D is a scam. It is not a scam. And I'm telling you, the reason that they think it's a scam is because they're misinformed and they don't know enough about it. When you meet this attorney, you do your due diligence. He works with R&D, R&D only, and just do your due diligence, do your own homework, and you can, if you start now in January until the end of the year, and you have a tax plan, just like you have a life plan, you have a dental plan, you need a tax plan to build your wealth. Throughout the year, there is a way to reduce your taxes down to zero. You can purchase assets, you can build wealth, and then reduce your taxes if you're intentional and you have the right partner on your side. It is totally possible.
All right, great. So we're going to make a quick switch to our lightning round Q&A. I know you were excited about this. Most important here, Rachel, these are supposed to be very quickly answered. No long, drawn-out answers. We need to get through 8 to 10 of them in just a few minutes. So very fast answers here, okay? For those that haven't listened to this part of the episode, I use a program called Poddex, and these are business-related questions for Rachel. They should be fairly easy for her to answer. So let's go ahead here. So first question. Who is someone you would love to collaborate with, and what would you love to collaborate on?
Elon Musk. I would just to see how his mindset is and how he thinks really big, because I feel like he's fearless, and I love the fearless mindset. I think Elon Musk. Okay.
Do you have a favorite business podcast that you listen to?
I don't. I consume information like Tony Robbins. I would listen to a lot, and he's really motivational and very high end on mindset.
Okay. Who do you look to for advice or mentorship?
I have a CPA that's a coach. His name is Andrew Argue. I highly recommend. He's just amazing. He went from going $1 million to making $100 million, I think, and having his mindset from such a short time has increased my mind. I think mindset is everything.
Good. What business-related book has inspired you the most? Or another way of asking it is, what is your favorite book?
I would say Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. I met him, actually. He's amazing because he teaches the cash flow quadrant, and I highly recommend it.
This is a tough question I'm going to ask you now. This one people get stumped a little bit. It's hard to come up with an answer here. If someone was to write a book about you, what would it be named?
Fearless Rachel. I don't know. Fearless, I don't know. Fearless, or I'm not afraid of anything. I take a lot of risks, and I think my mindset inspires a lot of people.
Okay. It's funny you just asked it. The next question is, who has been your greatest inspiration?
My father. I've seen him going through very hard times and still pushing through. He paid $1.2 million in taxes, and that's why I became an accountant. I think my father is my biggest inspiration.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we got here? What is the first thing you wanted to be when you were a child, when you grew up?
I always wanted to be an accountant.
Okay.
Always. I wanted to work at a bank, and then I'm like, did it make sense? I was like, I'm going to be an accountant. So I knew that this is something that I wanted to do. I love helping people.
Okay. How do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you keep a notebook? Do you use voice memos?
I put everything in my notes on my iPhone, and I have like 150 pages worth of notes. I print them all out, and then I delegate it to execute to my team.
Okay. How do you define success?
I define success by having a balance, making sure that so working really hard is success, but also at the same time spending time with family, going to the gym, working out, dealing with your mind, your body, your health, and making sure that your finances are always being taken care of and having enough money for the future so you could build wealth.
Okay. Let's see. We're going to do two more questions. Let's see. Excuse me. If you could take a class on anything, what would it be on?
If I could take a class on anything, I don't know. I guess, again, how to be even more fearful and make decisions without being afraid. Because no matter how fearful you are, there's always some fear inside of you. And how do you have more courage to continue to do what you need to do every single day, and nothing should stop me.
Got it. Last question.
Mm-hmm.
This can be either business or personal. Okay? What is one subscription, which is something you pay for either monthly or annually, okay, that you cannot live without?
Amazon.
Very, very, very common answer. That's a good one. All right, Rachel, that was great. Thank you. So how can people contact you? How can they find out more about the services you provide? Why don't you drop your information that you want to give to the listeners and viewers so they'll be able to reach out after the episode if they want to learn more?
Sure. I verbally tell you that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I could just give my cell phone number. I give my cell phone number to everybody. Rachel Michaelov. My cell is 646-284-4705. I give my cell phone number because I truly, I connect with every single client and I want to help them. I will never give something to someone that if I do not believe in it. And I've rejected people because I say that you have you have everything amazing and you don't need me. But I really want to make sure that I help every single person and elevate from where they are at.
You want to give your email address as well?
Yeah, sorry. It's Rachel@EmpireTaxAdvisors.com.
And that's spelled Rachel, just for those who don't, because there's other ways to spell Rachel. So, Rachel, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're listening or watching this and you have interest in reaching out to Rachel, please let her know that you heard about her through the Raving Patients podcast. That would be helpful for me. If you like the episode and you have a colleague you think would be interested in it, or they have a big tax liability, refer them to Rachel or have them listen to this episode. Like us, share us, help promote the episodes. Again, we're in season 8. I really appreciate all the support I've been given over the years. I want to thank the sponsors, Dental Intelligence, Carl, and Net32 for their continued support. And check out Supercharge Your Dental Practice and learn more about my event September 25th through 27th in 2026 at Pier 66. And as I end every single one of my episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thank you.